But their story didn't end there.
How could there have been only one? And he's back in business.
Is the worst idea in history of bad ideas.
Part 2 is the final chapter in the violent history.
This time, it's personal.
Welcome to Revenge the Sequel, a podcast just about sequels. Before this episode starts, we just want to tell you how much we appreciate the love and support. But all these episodes are going to be deleted soon. So download them while you can. I'm just kidding. Purge.
It's time to purge. First purge.
Is there anything
Second
to plug
purge.
in the beginning or no?
No, I guess
Just
we can
our
plug
daily
some
lives.
Yeah, we can plug some. We're recording this on a day where a bunch of trailers just came out. So
Oh yeah, let's talk about trailers before
we
the
should do,
actual
like, some
episode.
sequel news. Remember that you said that?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Grand idea, old chap.
let's talk about some sequel news, Dan.
Sequel
Damn.
news.
What do you guys want to start talking about? Which
No.
of the 10 things?
just kidding.
Oh, that's about it. No, I'm just playing. Since we're doing a DC episode, spoilers here. We're talking about The Dark Knight, but we'll get into that later. Let's talk about that Shazam trailer.
Shazam.
Technically a sequel to Man of Steel.
Yeah, I guess so. Technically,
They're
a sequel
all
to the
sequels
it's
to
the
Man of
DC
Steel.
universe. Set in the DC universe, so you have
Zachary Levy.
Zachary Levi playing from Chuck.
Is he from the Jeans family, the Levi's family?
He was just in the last two Thor movies.
Actually,
Thor
he
the
was,
Dark
yeah, he
World
was
and
Fandral.
Thor Ragnarok as Fandral.
Oh, yeah.
But he plays
Mm-hmm.
Billy Batson's giant form, Captain Marvel, a.k.a. Shazam, in this movie.
Yeah.
So explain Shazam. It's a kid who has a superpower of turning into a grown man.
Yeah, it's basically magic.
It's basically the superhero version of Big. So you have Billy Batson who finds the wizard Shazam, and Shazam gives him powers to turn into this,
Demigod.
demigod type person. Who
Do you think he has sex as an adult?
Probably he could if he wanted
I
to.
guess if you wanted to.
So he has the superpower, and so this movie lends itself to be a comedy of sort.
Yeah, it almost looks parody-ish. I'm a little lost on why Black Adam is not in this movie. Black Adam is played by The Rock. It's the nemesis of Shazam.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well there's a lot to introduce here, and it is very different tone to the other DC movies that are very dark and gritty, and that's why I was a little taken aback because it's being directed by Sandberg. Shit, what's his name?
David Sandberg.
Andy Sandberg.
Yeah, Andy Sandberg. We're just watching Brooklyn Nine.
David
Sandberg, who is a horror film guy, Lights Out, Annabelle Creation. So when they hired him, I thought, oh, this is going to be some creepy doll stuff.
Yeah.
Nope, not at
It's
all.
got
It's
that
very
kid
playful.
from It
It's a
also.
pretty fun movie.
I got that kid from It. It takes place
Yeah.
during Christmas. It's got Mark Strong in
Mark
it.
Strong.
When is
you
this
got Mark
movie
Strong.
coming out? Is it a holiday movie?
No, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I know
Next
it's next year, but
That's it.
I missed that part of the trailer, I guess.
It'll be exciting. I think
Yeah.
Shazam because he's not as well known as Superman or Batman.
He actually
Definitely.
is, actually.
No.
No, he was Superman's main rival back in the 1940s when he was known as Captain Marvel before,
Yeah.
DC lost that lawsuit to Marvel.
You're confusing me. Isn't
Yeah.
Captain Marvel coming out next year?
Yeah, well,
It
he
is.
was the original Captain
Yeah,
Marvel.
Captain Marvel is... I've always known Shazam, as we're talking about right now. This is going to get really confusing. But, I've always known Shazam as Captain Marvel because he's been known as Captain Marvel for a while up until, like I said, Marvel kind of won a
Yeah.
lawsuit. and
Shazam
then-
is just a word he says to turn into Captain Marvel.
But what's the app that tells you what song you're listening to?
Shazam.
Okay, and that's different?
Yeah.
Yes.
Beyonce also says it in Goldmember also. Shazam!
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Well,
But this movie's been brewing for a while, and they've it's got a rich history, even if it does look kind of new to people. So it is a very old timey, old school hero, which I think will probably, hopefully, set the DC in the right direction.
They said that they leaked footage of him stepping on a big piano, like in Big.
Oh, interesting.
Kids movie, very lighthearted feel.
Maybe
It's
it's
good.
something. Maybe it's a little something for the little baby boys and girls out there.
Yeah. I guess.
Let's talk about another superhero trailer that we just saw.
Another DC and another horror director directing
That's
it,
true.
too.
James Wan,
James
the one
Wan.
who hired David Sandberg to make
Yeah.
Lights Out after seeing the
Aquaman.
short film. Aquaman.
Aquaman.
I don't know. Sophie earlier said that she wasn't really a fan of this trailer.
It looks like a Disney movie tryout. They're trying hard to be like an animated Disney movie.
I think James Wan used the submarine he used in the last Fantastic. Wait, what movie did he make? Final Fantasy? No, what movies did he make?
He made the scary
Fast Five.
movies. Oh yeah, nice. There you go.
Fast 6.
Fast 6.
Fast 7. One of those.
Is that the one
Final
with
Fantasy.
the? Wait, is
Fast
that the
6.
one with the submarine?
Yeah,
No,
one with the
that's
ice.
the one afterwards.
that's
No,
the one,
that's
yeah.
the one afterwards.
Okay,
Yeah.
never mind. I was going to
Yeah.
say he used the same submarine because there's also one in this. But Aquaman, one of the OG members of the Justice League, we've seen him already in the Justice League movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Jason Momoa.
Dothraki.
Aquaman.
Yeah.
This movie looks like it's going to be packed not just with action, but also content. It looks
Yeah.
like it's going to be long. We saw footage of him as a child, footage of them underwater in the crazy underwater universe, footage of him on land.
Yeah.
On an airplane.
This is going to be
or what, right?
Yeah, in the Sahara
that's right.
Desert where there's no water. What
Kinda
are you
looks
doing
like-
there, Aquaman?
What is
Don't
going
you need
on?
some aqua?
I
Yeah,
am so confused.
It did kind of turn like Indiana Jones or like Romancing the Stone there for a second. Like,
Yeah.
just kind of,
Yeah.
I'm kind of
It
baffled
looks
by.
interesting.
But
If,
he's also hip. He has all these one-liners. He's like, you
Yeah.
gotta love redheads. Bahoy!
there you go, Bahoy.
Yeah.
He go,
Roger Dangerfield. Oh, no respect.
It's so I don't know. It's so weird when your movie has literally everything comic accurate. Because Mara, all the trenchers, you know, those zombie fish that were about to jump after
There were
him.
zombie fish.
Yeah. All of that stuff is pulled
Oh,
exactly
yeah, I
right
remember
out of
seeing that, yeah.
Well,
right out of the comic, and then Aquaman looks like he's not from the comic at all. Like everything
Yeah.
around him looks comic accurate except for him.
yeah, it's just because
It's
he
really
looks like
funny.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, exactly.
But
So
It
Aqua
looks like
Bro
they
returns.
pulled from the New 52, which if you haven't seen Throne of Atlantis, that Justice League animated movie, you can watch it and go, oh, this is how it's going to go, for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And,
It's the exact same storyline.
But also for the Rebirth, DC in the comics when they rebooted him again in Rebirth, they kind of split the Seven Oceans type of concept into Seven Kingdoms. So it is a lot more Game of Thrones like. So it's very I guess weird to put Jason Momoa from Game of Thrones
Into another Game of Thrones.
Yeah, exactly situation.
His story's a little different than the other superheroes.
Actually, no, it's kind of very similar to like a Black
It's
Panther
like
or
the-
like a Wonder Woman type of thing.
Well, so Superman left
Krypton.
and
planet
has to
Krypton.
deal with, being away from his...
kind of like a Moses storyline. I guess.
Yeah, Wonder Woman kind of the same thing, but she can always return whenever she
Right.
wants
Born
to.
of a god.
But it seems like this is a Return of the King
Type
Lord
of- yeah, like-
type sitch.
Yeah.
This is a classic ROTSTS
Material.
Return of the Wait,
ROTK. There you go.
Yeah, Return of the King type sitch. Classic Lion King,
yeah,
which is also
exactly.
a ripoff of what, Hamlet, right?
No,
Or
Richard
Yeah, I
the
guess
Third.
so.
Richard III.
Which
Boom.
in turn
Anyways.
is probably a ripoff from.
But it does look entertaining. He can control animals, which could be something kind of campy, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Well, and
We'll
he's come
see,
a long
yeah.
way because I remember when everyone made fun of him, for just talking to fish, and he was like the butt end of everybody's superhero jokes.
Yeah.
But this movie is definitely going to be one that you probably would want to see in IMAX
Yeah.
3D because of the FX heavy thing.
And James Wan.
It might take away from the effects looking a little bit cheaper, I guess.
James Wan, who
That's
is
true. Yeah, the trailer now. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go
Sorry.
ahead.
Just like the only reason it looks weird to me now, and because I'm digging it the more we watch it, but it does look very rough, and it's a couple of months out, so like they obviously need to animate a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because it does. I mean, you obviously can't go out and grab like a giant crustacean and ride it.
Yeah.
Like you have to.
It looks very Mad Max. under
Delphin
the-
begs to differ.
I
Yeah.
can ride I have
any
crabs.
crustacean. Yeah,
Dolphin does have crabs.
Too
and
many
so, Like
crabs.
it's just.
Crustaceans ride me.
Yeah, what? Damn.
So you just.
Yeah, it looks
you
like
take
Mad Max
that-
under the water, riding
Yeah.
alligators and sharks.
I've got an Aquaman type switch happening right now.
That was your inspiration for your Aquaman script.
yeah.
Well, and-
there's a lot of crabs.
Not to mention the cast is great. Also, Nicole Kidman and Django Fett as his dad.
Amber Heard.
Yeah, Amber Heard, and
Mara,
then you have Patrick Wilson as a Ocean Master.
A
You
lot
have
of people.
The comic accurate Black Manta, which made me freak out when I saw the trailer. So, to me, it looks promising. It doesn't look as dark, which is a lot of everybody's complaints for the last couple of movies,
Yeah.
minus Justice League, which
Yeah,
was
one can
Frankenstein.
only hope it's good because DC obviously does need those wins right now. So
Yeah, it's steering towards more of an action comedy type
adventure type of movie.
of movie. But yeah, and James Wan is directing it. That's what I wanted to talk about because this is a good transition. He's pretty much all of Warner Brothers right now. He's half of Warner Brothers is James Wan.
New Line, I think, right?
And
Or
New
like-
Line Cinema
yeah,
because
exactly.
he is also helming a ton of these horror movies for Warner Brothers. It's not a trailer we saw now, but there were shots of The Nun. Wait, hold on.
The
Anyway, so yeah, James Wan had his own night, and I really love how big this.
La Llorona.
Do you
The
like
Nun.
how big the Conjuring universe is getting? Or no?
Actually, no. I'll say this:
What?
the movies have been better than I thought they would be. So like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited.
I
to
like
see
the
more of them.
Paranormal Activity movies, and those got shut.
But you
down.
haven't seen Annabelle Creation, which is a really good movie.
Is
Like,
it really?
You were not
Annabelle
on that.
Creation's
Are you lying?
good.
You weren't on that podcast that we did about it.
That was really good.
That's a good
Conjuring,
movie. Conjuring 2.
Conjuring 2. Those were really good
Conjuring
films.
3.
The
Insidious 2.
Smiling Man is coming out, and Insidious, but they released some footage of The Nun, and The Nun looks pretty okay
Yeah.
as a movie. What I
Goes through
really
Sister Act 1,
I like
2, and 3.
I like that he's really finding some young talent and giving them opportunities to
Young,
make these
fresh
okay
meat.
But yeah, speaking of fresh meat,
Godzilla.
Godzilla.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. Is that the next one?
Yeah,
Nice.
let's talk about
That's the next
Godzilla,
sequel one, I
King
guess, yeah.
of what's it called?
King of Monsters.
Wait, do we want to talk about that or Fantastic? No,
let's talk about
Yeah,
Godzilla.
there we
It's
go,
too
yeah.
late right now.
Yeah.
We already said Godzilla.
Godzilla.
King of the
Gojira.
Monsters is a sequel to the 2014 Godzilla movie.
Yeah, the fat
King
bear
Kong.
Godzilla.
Now there is something really cool about the trailer that I really really liked. Well, I have a Godzilla poster. That's
Millie
wild.
Bobby Brown.
Is it the
Boom.
score?
Well,
'Cause, like the score is
The
like
score
epic
is
in that.
good, but it is a slow build, and the Godzilla film that Gareth Edwards made was all about discovery and feeling really tiny in this crazy world
And it was
that
from
doesn't belong
the
to
human
you.
perspective, so like
And-
you didn't see Godzilla
yeah.
because you'd turn and run.
This
And
kinda
this movie follows that
continues
quite
the
a bit.
themes,
Yeah,
like the trailer, the plot, the way the trailer is certainly kind of going was that like we're destroying the planet, so let these monsters out to kind of
Purge us.
purge us, which
Oh.
that's a little weird.
Should I play little snippets of the trailer in between us talking?
For this
Maybe,
one, yes,
maybe
because
not.
this one, I mean, I agree fully. This is the best trailer to come out of Comic-Con. This beats like everything that I've
Yeah.
seen so far.
Yeah,
Because the way that the score is it's like it's majestic, it's beautiful, but it's also like very kind of haunting, and you kind of see these imagery of like cities destroyed.
yeah.
But it's like super grand and epic, and you're just like, and
It's insane that happens in this because
Yeah.
that's just so much destruction
But-
in this movie.
it's funny though because like and not that like
Welcome
'cause-
to Godzilla movies, baby.
exactly there you go. Because I was like superhero movies, you kind of have a problem with all this destruction and stuff, but Godzilla's always stepped on people. So like if he's not stepping on a couple of thousand buildings,
Yeah.
then there's something
Stepping
wrong with your
stones.
movie. Like,
And I think
our
what's
people.
what's really great, not great, I guess, but the original Godzilla was a reaction to the nuclear bomb,
Right.
and a lot
54.
of this movie keeps that same.
they're trying to
imagery.
keep with same themes. Like, but in this
It's
case,
cool.
I guess it's
Or like, look what
overpopulation.
we
Not cool,
done,
but
just
it's
like,
interesting.
Yeah.
and you get
Mothra, Ghidorah,
you get-
Rodan, Godzilla,
and then they said they would probably have other monsters as
Space
surprises
Godzilla,
too.
Mecha
which is gonna be pretty
Godzilla,
cool.
Whoa.
Baby Godzilla. Just all these different forms of Zilla. That's
Yeah,
it.
I'm really impressed with the cast, and it looks really fun. I think
King
it's
Kong.
I think it's going to be my personal most anticipated movie of next quarter, next
Right.
year.
Yeah, it's next year. So like I think
Oh,
you're
yeah.
right. I think next year that trailer kind of like takes the cake for best trailer of the year in my opinion.
And it is going to make you want to experience it on the big screen.
Right,
Because-
like you
IMAX.
can only see
Yeah.
these
Oh,
giant
yeah.
You need to
monsters.
feel these seats
Yeah.
rumble.
all these monsters too, all these extra monsters like Rodan, Mothra, and Ghidorah. I thought they would. I didn't know how they were going to nail this because to me it looks like even when it was announced, it was like okay, they're putting all of these. It's a little overkill. Like it's kind of it's going to get cheesy.
How's it going to work?
Yeah,
Now, they need to throw Gigan.
Because normally,
Megalyn.
if you watch any of the older Godzilla
Jet
movies,
Jaguar.
which are fantastic, or played the GameCube game,
destroy our monsters.
the movies are kind of
They're cheesy, they're campy.
It's plot in between just people in suits fighting.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
And it's like when you threw those other Godzilla movies where he starts fighting monsters, it becomes campy because they're not like thematic movies like the way that first one was or something
And
anymore.
a lot of the origins of the other monsters were really just to explain something cool that they added to them. Like Space or Godzilla 2000 was created by aliens who needed to come
Right,
down
right, exactly,
and
yeah.
defeat. They were just like, well, how can we have a better Godzilla? Oh, let's do this. And so this movie looks like it's
balls to the wall Godzilla. Like
Oh, yeah.
Toho, like they brought his entire universe. Like let's just throw all this shit in there.
Hey, it's going to be exciting. I imagine that this is how it felt, or not how it felt, but you probably felt just as small as when you heard the T-Rex footsteps in Jurassic Park, being like, oh God, there's something here. I can imagine you seeing this movie and hearing some weird screech behind some smoke and thinking of something really big coming
Yeah.
towards you.
Right.
But speaking of things really big coming towards you, huh?
Glass.
Yeah, Glass is big.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about the trailer? Is it something that is it a sequel that people
Yeah, it's
were
a sequel
asking
to
for?
Unbreakable.
I know, but
Oh.
is it like one of these, I hope there's more of this?
Yeah, I
think
think
so.
after. So it's funny because I think I explained this when we did an episode on Split because we did cover on Revenge of the Sequel, right?
Yeah, we did.
So-
We did.
Oh my gosh, I don't remember that.
Yeah,
Jesus
so we
Christ.
did it.
That was only last year.
I
so-
remember saying, yeah, I know you need to get
Holy
you
hell.
have a concussion.
Lay off the booze.
Yeah. So anyway, I remember saying that like that's what made me want to go see Split was the fact that it was a sequel to Unbreakable. So the fact that both of those movies.
But you knew that going in? Or
Yeah,
no?
well, I had read a review and I
Oh,
was
okay.
like, I'm not gonna watch this movie. This movie looks dumb.
Oh, so
and
you
then I
one,
read it. I was
okay.
like, wait, what?
That was a surprise to me. I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, it was a really awesome surprise. So to see both movies come into a climactic ending, I guess, by clashing, it looks pretty awesome. One of them was the superhero movie that you never knew you wanted, and then the villain movie. And now this one's kind of just smashing them both together.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm more excited for this than I am, Aquaman or anything else. Any other superhero thing that's coming out this year.
Infinity War 2, nope.
Are they all villains in this film, or is Bruce Willis?
Bruce Willis is the hero.
The hero.
Like, because the original Unbreakable
David Dunn.
movie, David Dunn, Bruce Willis's character was like, the twist is that like, Mr. Glass killed everybody on that train that made Bruce Willis who he is.
Sarah Paulson, is that her name?
Yeah, Sarah Paulson stars in this one as like a comic book expert, which is really
AHS, coming back from AHS Asylum. Am I right?
Yeah,
American Horror
it
Story.
just- yeah, and it just looks great. I mean, I've been kind of waiting for an Unbreakable sequel for a while, and then getting it with Split secretly, and then having it lead into this movie is
M. Night
just.
Shyamalan.
It feels like the first Avengers movie, really. Like
Yeah.
the stakes are
Whoa.
pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
The stakes are really high, and you've never seen any of these characters together. It's got a lot of excitement surrounding
It's
it.
funny that they don't believe that they're real, and we've seen
Well,
fucking James McAvoy
And John,
Burn-
become
Ben-
a monster.
Yeah, Ben stuff.
what
Yeah.
was the year Unbreakable came out?
Year 2000. So it's
that was
8 years,
around the time where like X-Men came out.
It's still 8 years away from the MCU. Anything that like even the
So-
Dark Knight that we're talking
It's
about.
such a
later today.
different superhero movie. It's very
Yeah,
moody
and
and dramatic.
He didn't know that. He couldn't have known that superheroes movie would have swept the nation like this, the way they have. So the fact that he started it off so long ago, and then has this one coming out now is awesome because it's kind of like a critique of the times. Like everyone's obsessed with superhero movie and the pop culture type of aspect. So
There was a really big conversation around mental illness when Split came out as well, and so it's going to be interesting to see those themes in this movie.
Right.
Times 3.
yeah.
And what
Good
kind
stuff.
of
Great stuff.
superpower is being able to break or to be weak?
Yeah, well, he's got
Awful.
a genius IQ.
He's smart, yeah. That made him smart, I
But
guess.
that's it.
Interesting. Speaking of genius IQ,
Speaking of interesting,
Speaking of
Fantastic
interesting-
Beasts.
that's the lamest segue. Speaking of things that are good,
Yeah.
Johnny Depp.
Yeah, boom.
Ouch.
Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
No,
The
Fantastic-
Crimes
Part
of
2.
Grindelwald.
Crimes of-
Sorry. Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. Are there
Boom.
even beasts in this movie?
Yeah,
I'm just
there's a
kidding.
ton.
There
Actually,
are.
I don't know. Are
We
there?
saw a ton of them in it.
The
I don't.
Niffler's back in there. He rides one under the sea. Under the sea.
I don't know how many
Aquaman.
more there are.
Oh yeah. And then there's
Um,
that one that roars at him. It looks like a yeti
Yeah.
with 4 legs.
Now, what are your thoughts on prequels where we know what the outcome is? Because we know that
Dumbledore survives.
Dumbledore survives.
And
Maybe
that
you-
Newt dies.
Well, yeah, he does because he would if
Of
he
old
was
age.
if he was alive, he would have been fighting with we assume he would have been
Voldemort.
fighting with Voldemort.
I was going to say Dumbledore.
Dumbledore. Yeah. What I mean, you don't have to answer that question. What do you think about Fantastic Beasts? Are you excited? Are you Harry Potter heads?
Yeah, Harry Potheads.
Ha ha ha! All right, you got to shave and you got to stop smoking.
I'm excited. It's kind of a weird movie. I think Warner Brothers doesn't for obvious reasons that we probably won't go into too much detail for. I don't think they know how to sell the movie, other than like the trailer that they just kind of sold us right now.
Sick
Justice
burn.
League.
I don't think they know how to sell the movie because of a certain actor that's in it.
Johnny Depp.
Yeah, that
Oh.
one.
Oh,
But like.
Eddie
From
Redmayne.
from what we saw of the movie, it looks like it's pretty. I mean, it looks like it's going to be good. Like as far as the content's concerned, like controversy that's surrounding the behind the scenes production. Not that there's anything behind the scenes that's like really. It's just that one actor, like Johnny Depp, that's kind of
Well,
casting a shadow.
you could always sign me up for more of
Wizarding stuff.
the Wizarding
Yeah,
world.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
I just
like,
want to be there.
Content-wise, it looks really cool.
I want to go. Oh my god, let's go to Universal Studios. Oh my god, let's go.
That first frame that pops up when they're doing the ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
I was like, fuck yeah, this is the best.
let's get in there, baby.
And yeah, I need more.
And we have never seen this much of outside of Hogwarts. What would we call that
Pick
world?
dimples.
What is that called? I don't even know.
It's called England.
Middle Earth? What?
The outside Wizarding world.
Yeah,
the shadows,
we
basically,
really
yeah.
don't see that often in.
When the last one was
And
New
the Harry
York.
Potter.
other than diagonally.
Diagonally.
So I'm really interested, and because it looks like they even traveled to Paris in this one, and you're like, oh shit, a whole nother
Full
world.
steam ahead.
Fuck, but I think this movie is going to be great. If it comes out in the holidays, even better. Yeah. But yeah, the only other thing I'll say is it appears that there is, and you talked about the Elder Wand in this, but how much of this connects? I don't know if
Yeah.
this is like a
It's
prequel
got-
sitch where you're going to see Voldemort pop out of the bush and be like,
well, you
Daddy?
obviously you already have Dumbledore, so
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
why you wouldn't see a young Hagrid, or why you wouldn't. You already see Nicholas Flamel, who
Yeah.
was the creator of the Philosopher's Stone or whatever, which explains why he lived so long. He looks like a ghost in this one,
Yeah.
which is hilarious. But yeah, super exciting. Even Ezra Miller's back, who you thought that died in the last movie when he blew up from all that
Yeah.
evil magic.
they
but
brought him back.
brought him back diagonally.
Wait, he didn't die,
He did die. He blew up.
but didn't Redmayne get the thing back? The
No, I don't
little
think
black.
so.
I don't forgot what they're called, the obscures, whatever.
No.
Didn't he grab it?
I don't
Well, I
think so.
thought he
I
grabbed
gotta go watch it again.
I thought he
maybe.
grabbed that shit.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll
We'll see
find
on
out
on the
next
second part,
year. But yeah, so I'm really excited. I think these movies are still really fun. They are capitalizing on the fact that all of the kids who watched Harry Potter, when they waited in line and had made their parents watch Harry Potter with them, 15
Yeah.
years ago.
Now they have kids.
Now they got money and they have
got
kids.
kids.
Yeah, exactly.
So you got to get that. We're gonna get fucking 10,
Gotta get that.
We're gonna get 10 more Harry Potter movies.
Gotta get that.
10
that,
more
that,
Harry Potter
that,
movies.
that. Boom,
10
boom,
more.
boom.
Everyone's gonna have their own. I want to see. We're gonna see a Snape origin. We're gonna see some kind of centaur porno.
Jesus, nice. I'm down. We'll see
Anyways,
that.
what else?
Centaur
What else? What else so far?
Dragon Ball. I'm just kidding.
Oh God! Well, there's a lot of
pretty
other
much it,
stuff.
yeah.
There's Venom, of course, but who cares?
there's some
I'm just
crazy
kidding.
stuff in there.
There's the Spider Man
Spider-Verse stuff, yeah,
it's
that
insane how
Spider-Verse.
many Spider-Men there are.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
golly,
lots
and
of
they're all
Spider-Man.
good.
There's Peter Porker, Spider-Ham.
What did you say?
Yeah,
Peter
Porker.
Porker.
Oh, I thought they were saying with an accent like Peter
Pork
Porker.
Peter.
Oh my God,
Peter Porker.
John Hamm, right? That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, John Hamm is like,
Is he really? He
he's
is, right?
not. No,
Oh,
he's not.
sorry.
No, he's not.
imagine that though. They
I think it's
missed
John
an opportunity
Mulaney.
right there.
I think it's John Mulaney.
John Mulaney,
John
that's who it
Mulaney's
is.
playing.
Peter
Yeah.
Porker.
That's so funny.
That looks cool.
But exciting. I mean, it's kind of weird because now that Disney understands that they can create their own conventions, Marvel's not there, Star Wars isn't there.
Yeah.
None of the Disney stuff is really there because they're like, well, fuck this. We can make our own. We have a
Yeah, exactly.
Star Wars Celebration. We've got D23. We can build our own press,
I think-
which is smart because think about these trailers today. If Disney was there, they would have to figure out a way to
Compete with all of
compete
this?
with all that shit.
Yeah.
Instead of like, you know what, in 3 months when no one else is caring, we're going to
Well-
just drop fucking Star Wars shit.
Yeah, and there was a lot of I think they showed the first pictures from It also, It Chapter
Ooh,
2,
yeah.
which
Oh, that's
heavily
pretty awesome.
anticipated sequel with
And
Jessica
footage.
Chastain and
I think
Bill
they
Hader.
they had footage of Bill Hader in that movie.
Yeah, Bill Hader and
Coming
James
out.
McAvoy. So that's pretty cool. And you had obviously the cast of, you had a bunch of other funny things too. So Brooklyn Nine-Nine was there.
Yeah.
Because they're coming back. So
We've got
it's
TV
It's
shows.
pretty crazy on how Comic-Con is basically a pop culture and not so much a comic convention anymore.
We got to get to Hall H.
Yeah, exactly. They release toys there. They'll release video games, movies, comics. The Dr. Horrible's getting another.
We should
comic.
go to Comic-Con next year. We
Boom.
should go.
Delphin Pod live from San Diego Comic-Con.
We'll release our new shows.
2025.
We're going to release footage, audio from our
We're-
new show. It's
we're
going to be a
gonna get
listening party.
Interviews with James Cameron.
James Cameron? Oh.
Michael B. Jordan.
No,
Creed 2.
James Cameron won't be there because Avatar will now be owned by Disney.
Disney.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Oof.
Sorry, James Cameron.
Sorry, James Cameron.
Now we can't interview you.
Sorry, James. Do you guys have anything else you want to add to this little San Diego Comic-Con dish?
No, that's it. We have a comic book movie that we're talking about here. So like you.
Yeah. Wait, is this a separate episode or no?
No, this is the same thing.
Oh, okay.
We're
Well
probably
then,
just gonna
yeah.
talk, yeah.
Well,
Then we'll shut up.
we'll shut up. And here's the trailer for Dark Knight.
10-year anniversary.
Where do we begin? A year ago, these cops and lawyers wouldn't dare cross any of you. I mean, what happened?
So what are you proposing?
It's simple. Kill the Batman. Here's my card.
Bruce, this is Harvey Dent.
Rachel's told me everything about you.
I certainly hope not. You once told me that we'd be together. Did you mean it?
Bruce, don't make me your only hope for a normal life.
You're Alfred, right?
That's right, sir.
Any psychotic ex-boyfriends I should be aware of?
Oh, you have no idea.
Wow, what a trailer.
Damn.
Dark Knight, The Dark Knight, one of the best superhero movies ever made.
Of all time. Yeah.
Of all time. Minus, of course, Catwoman.
Which is really funny. I think early on this podcast, we've said that we would never do like a movie like this. Or maybe not. We haven't said it probably on the air. But
Yeah.
I think when we first started this podcast, we were talking about what sequels we would do. And at the time, we were kind of talking like, oh, let's do sequels that we can actually talk about and not something that's super duper good because like we don't want to just be, you know.
We can't make fun of those movies.
Yeah, we can't. We don't want to just be like, you know.
Jacking it off.
Yeah, we don't want to just be masturbating.
Wait, we wouldn't be
Over this movie.
masturbating. Okay.
But I was like, I want to masturbate.
No, because I was
Like,
saying if we
okay.
jack off a movie, we wouldn't be masturbating. We would be jerking off a movie.
Well, yeah, we don't want to jerk that off, and we don't want to be just jerking off over it too, because like movies that are that good. Anyway,
thinking about the movie. I see
yeah,
what you're
the
saying.
point is like we don't want to be just like praising it all the time, but like this is a special occasion because it is the 10.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years since The Dark Knight was released.
And that is insane because this movie is so ingrained. It's always on cable, but
Yeah,
it's also
always on cable.
On
TNT,
TBS, very funny.
TNT.
USA.
It's a great, complete movie, start to finish, and it's also one of those movies that's about something, not
It
just
is, yeah.
about whatever plot
For what it
happens
is, yeah.
in the movie. It has an actual
It has
message.
themes, yeah, it has themes, and it has
Yeah.
It's just really crazy because
It's
like
complicated.
But it's Chris Nolan. What do you expect? Chris Nolan always has meaning behind everything he does. So
Oh, really?
a fan of Kubrick, please.
I guess so,
Please.
yeah. So then we'll go ahead and actually just dive into it. There's no spoiler-free zone for
Oh,
this
do
one.
you
Yeah,
want-
if you haven't seen this movie,
Oh, yeah.
then you may be
Weird because
Yeah.
it's been 10. It was
you
10
may be a
years
bit
ago.
odd. You saw Justice League, and you didn't see this movie. What's wrong with you?
So The Dark Knight is an actual sequel, which that's the reason we're covering it right now.
Squeakquel.
The Dark Knight is a sequel to Batman Begins from 2005. Batman Begins was of course, rebooted, the first in the rebooted franchise of Batman movies because, Batman and Robin failed spectacularly in 97.
Joe Schumacher, thank you.
Yeah, 97, Batman and Robin failed spectacularly. Superheroes kind of weren't really cool. I guess they were at the time.
X-Men.
Spider-Man 2 had
Spider-Man.
just come out too.
And Dark Knight, what was it? No. Batman Begins wasn't a failure. It made money.
It wasn't, but
You know
I
what they
remember.
call aight?
I remember not liking Batman Begins when I first saw it too, because I was still in Tim Burton mode. I was like, you know what, this is okay.
It was
It's not
Batman
as-
karate chopping people.
Yeah, it's Batman karate chopping people, and it's still directed by Nolan, which is like kind of odd. I mean, actually, no. Nowadays, it actually looks like the most Batman-like of the three. Like out of the,
It's a
as
straight
far
up,
as the
it's a
character
straight up
was.
scary movie.
It's a straight up superhero movie. That's what
Yeah.
it is. Like the other ones the Dark Knight gets real, and then the Dark Knight Rises kind of takes that like
Theatric.
And the overall
That
arc
theatric thing
of
from it.
these Dark Knight movies very important to the whole franchise. Ra's al Ghul.
Ra's al
Yeah,
Ghul.
Ra's al Ghul makes an appearance. in
Ra's
that first
al
one, who is named Ra's al Ghul because
Yeah.
Nolan just looks at the actual spelling and he's like, no, this is how it should be pronounced.
Raish, Raz, you tell us and leave it in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. Revenge of the Sequel.
So
It's Lisa with a Z.
So I don't remember. Like again, like Batman Begins was okay, and then when this movie started to pick up steam, like there was or the marketing for this movie started to pick up steam. We found out that the Joker was going to be the main villain, and I kind of rolled my eyes because Jack Nicholson is the Joker and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and then
Mark
we got
Hamill, the Joker.
Then we got teases and teases. We had that trailer that obviously you guys listened to earlier, and then we got the actual movie.
Yeah, but and then remember when they had cast the Joker? We're like Heath Ledger. That's the last person I would have casted.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
I would have thought to cast as the Joker. The dude from what is it? 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah,
they did A Knight's Tale, I guess.
Yeah, and then it wasn't even my fears weren't even kind of like they weren't even put to rest when I saw the first still because remember when I first saw the first still, they showed a picture of Heath Ledger in makeup. Torturing or trying to torture Maggie Gyllenhaal's character, Rachel Dawes.
Yeah.
And the angle looked really weird. It just looked like he had makeup on. Like it looked like he had just like a coat of white face paint.
Yeah, so here we were thinking like, oh man, this is
gonna
destined
suck.
for failure.
Yeah.
Failure.
And then, obviously that opening weekend came around and we, I don't think we saw it opening weekend. I think we saw it a couple of days later. But whoa, what a movie. Like you do not it's crazy how different this movie was and how serious it took itself. And it's just like it legitimized. It did that for comic book movies.
Yeah,
like it now. This is the movie that brought because this was a couple of no this wasn't. This was a little bit after Iron Man too. A couple of months after Iron Man. But that's kind of apples and oranges, and I guess we'll get into that discussion a little different later.
It definitely it redefined a lot of
genre, maybe more so than comic book movies, maybe just about genre filmmaking in general. Like,
yeah, and it is kind of a study in what heroes and villains really are, which are people with some sort of resources, and I don't even say superpower, but I would say resources that normal people don't have, and they have very strong feelings or opinions that drive whatever crazy thing that they want to do, because Batman himself is somewhat crazy, to do what he does.
Exactly.
And so is the Joker. But speaking of the Joker, one of the biggest shadows of the film before its release was 6 months before it released in theaters. The actor who played Joker, Heath Ledger,
he died
died
by accident. Yeah,
of drugs.
It was an accident of prescription. Yeah, it was he did die of a mixture of prescription drugs. Yeah, you're not wrong, I guess.
So it was something that people thought of as well, first of all, it enticed a lot of people to think, what is this character that he played that drove him to...
That was a stigma. There was a thought, I remember that going on at the time, and I think people still kind of believe it to this day, is that the Joker was what caused him to get sleepless nights and stuff like that, because his preparation of the character, if I remember correctly,
he was locked in a hotel room for months.
He was locked in a hotel
weeks.
room trying to figure out the character. Like he would write notes of the thoughts
as the character.
Yeah, and then so it looked like he was going insane himself, or at least from an outside perspective, instead of you don't really get that he's working on a character for work. It looks like he was losing himself.
Yeah, and then he said that it caused some sleeping issues, and then lo and behold, they found sleeping pills in his system, so that's why people associate that that must have been why, but it probably wasn't. A lot of people have sleeping problems,
right? And then even Nolan came out and said after we said cut, he wasn't the Joker. He
was Heath.
He was no Jared Leto.
He was fine.
He would just turn it off.
He wasn't all tatted up on the forehead.
Okay, all right. But yeah, so there was a lot of people following this movie, and of course it did well when it came out. But not just in terms of box office, but critics did realize or recognize it as a great piece of art.
It was one of the only superhero movies in recent times that has won an Oscar.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, exactly.
Fucking hell! Why
Boom!
did you have to pick that up?
Go
we
Suicide
talk
Squad.
about Suicide Squad again. Again. Alfred Hitchcock's 0 Oscars. Suicide Squad 1.
But the thing is, before this movie, I mean, even when you watched it in Iron Man, you saw tropes those comic booky tropes, which are kind of borderline on campy or cheesy depending on how you see them. This was the movie that doesn't feel that way. It has no ounce of cheesiness, no ounce of campiness at all, unless you're David Cronenberg and you're looking for that type of stuff in the movie. This shows that a movie about people in capes and in makeup can be very, very serious, super duper serious.
And it's about, and that's why it's so brilliant to have two villains in this movie, because the Joker is the
the opposite of Batman.
the
It's a yin
opposite
and yang, yeah.
of
Opposite
Batman. But he doesn't have as much of an emotional...
One side of the same coin, would you say?
Yeah.
Just order and chaos.
And so to have Harvey Dent fit into the role of the emotional villain in a lot of this film, even before he was an actual villain because of the jealousy that Bruce Wayne, I was going to say Bruce Banner, the jealousy that Bruce Wayne has, he takes on a lot of that role before he becomes an actual villain in the film. Whereas the Joker is more of a methodical and I think strategic villain to Batman.
Right.
And things just escalate in this movie.
Yeah, unstoppable force, immovable
things
object.
just keep going, crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier until what happens at the end, which is also very different from most superhero movies because it doesn't really have
A happy ending.
a happy
really,
ending. Because, the city needs a villain.
Right.
Tell me where the rabbits are.
Well, the thing, I mean, yeah.
Where are
it's
they? Sorry. I'm so sorry. I blew out all your speakers.
It brings out like those themes that they establish in that first movie where he says like I'm incorruptible as a symbol. He means to inspire people.
Yeah.
And this movie you kind of do see those themes where
He
like
inspired the wrong
inspired the
people.
wrong people. Like so like it's because he appeared as this dude who dresses up as a bat and like
There's
beats people.
there's somebody on the other side that steps up basically to the plate the same way he does.
Yeah.
But for the other side.
And it's a really like I don't know, it's a really cool and interesting character study on heroes and villains in general, and also those themes of the time, because it was like post 9/11, and a lot of people were comparing it at the time to like the extreme to like that Bush administration was going to fight the war on terror. Like
how far would you go?
Yeah, what freedoms do you have to sacrifice for security and stuff like that?
I remember
themes
because of that machine that he has that guy build too.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So like it's just
NSA.
yeah,
exactly. And so like
Big Brother's listening.
that stuff is like was very I mean it's still relevant now, but like more so than ever back then.
Yeah.
And it's just like you never saw that in a comic book movie before. Like a movie, you forget this movie. I've always said that these movies, the Nolan movies, are crime stories starring Batman. Like because they don't feel like comic book movies. They feel like something featuring a person in a cape.
Yeah, and it's
Like a crime story.
And,
like,
and the only reason why he's able to do the things he does is because he has a shit ton of money,
right?
And can build these
gadgets,
things.
yeah.
But it is kind of this weird motivation for him to want to save everything and make the city better. And so he constantly has to sacrifice more and more and more.
Right.
Because you're right, as he gets bigger and more powerful, so do the bad guys.
Yeah, well, yeah, the bad guys eventually just start buying off the good guys, where they're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, no, they're not good guys. They want to get paid, by this. So if you offer them more money, this is how easy they'll turn on each other."
It's crazy how many layers are in this movie
Yeah.
because you have Harvey Dent, you have Rachel, you have Morgan Freeman,
Yeah, Lucius Fox. You have
Alfred,
mhm.
Mr. Wayne.
Yeah.
Never. There are so many layers in this film that complicate his relationships with everyone, not just as Batman, but also as Bruce. Master Bruce.
Wayne.
Master Bruce.
I loved you, Master Wayne. That's not from.
trusted you.
That's from a different movie.
That's from a different Dark Knight movie.
I think one of the things that make these films so much
Fun.
not
Well, they're
yeah,
also
fun.
they're very
no,
entertaining
no.
too. Like,
entertaining, but
'cause they're blockbusters at the end of the day. Like,
but-
there's
there's plenty of
what's also-
action in these movies.
Right, and that again, like that's probably one of the coolest things about it is like how often do you get a blockbuster that's really smart like this?
Yeah.
like and so you probably haven't gotten one since. I mean, maybe reaching there, but
Ooh. Shots fired, Black Panther.
And all 10 years of movies, the last decade of movies, shots fired.
Oh no, I mean you got a good Mad Max Fury Road and stuff.
We're talking to you, La La Land,
more
Moonlight.
Those aren't blockbusters though.
Oh really? Some of them made more than $10 million.
I'm talking about like summer movies, like popcorn
Yeah.
flicks, like yeah,
Ones that, it's a Batman movie.
that are
so-
aimed, yeah, exactly, like that are aimed for like mass audiences. Like
Yeah.
you hardly get. There's always for those mass audience movies. There's always compromise in like what do you. In order for the people to kind of be entertained, like you have to balance that like the set pieces and stuff with with just good story really, or else like they're just gonna trash your movie after that.
And a lot of it, even though this is a very big movie, a lot of the scale is very small in this because the stakes are Gotham and end of list, really.
Yeah.
The way that it's grounded in that realism is really powerful and very different than other superhero movies where there's a nuke headed for all of America or something like that.
Yeah.
His deep, profound need to save just his city, which was, I think, what is it? Chicago, right? It looks like Chicago.
I think it was shot. Yeah, this one was still shot in Chicago.
Those are the things that separate this, because it just adds to that deep aesthetic and that kind of. This whole movie is just very, very complete, even from the beginning of the film. And I don't want to go. We're not going to go scene by scene or anything, but the reveal of the Joker in this movie with the bank heist and the school bus,
something right out of like a Michael Mann film, right? Like from Heat or something. Yeah, like it's
such a great way to give a lot of mystery to a character that was there the whole time. It's a really interesting and smart way to introduce the Joker in the film, because they knew the Joker was going to be in this movie since the end of the last one,
right? But like
they find that little,
but you didn't know how he was really going to be. You didn't know that Heath Ledger was going to take this very grounded and psychotic and very, at the very end of the day, still very Joker-like approach to the movie, because even when I was thinking, like, when they signed the Joker on, like, before this movie, I'm just thinking, like, oh, he's going to be like a Jack Nicholson type of character. Like, he's just going to laugh and
just
tell
weird.
you a one-liner. Yeah. He's like, clown gags and stuff like that throughout the movie. No, you don't get that at all. I mean, you do get that Joker imagery and, that iconography, like, with some of these,
He laughs.
Yeah,
he wears a purple suit.
He laughs. He wears he has gloves. He tells jokes. He he does it at camcorder recording, which is iconic Joker, like where he always sends a video to himself, like to the police. He does tropes like that.
He pulls those fun pranks, like that bomb in that guy's stomach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he has weird gags like that, and it's like it's still very Joker like, but you did not know it was going to be that extreme, because it makes the Joker like a very scary character, and like you never really thought that a person that deranged can have that much control.
And it's kind of that fearlessness in the Joker where he doesn't give a fuck and he'll kill whoever because he has something that he needs to do that is just makes him even more
right.
He's like a cowboy almost.
Well, and even
they're both symbols. Like the Batman character, like Bruce Wayne is struggling to be that Batman character, but the Joker has already kind of got it. Like the Joker is like devotes himself to that.
Right.
To that symbol.
Andrew, I'm going to cut you off again.
Okay, nice.
Kidding.
Okay. Well, by 2008, there had already been a lot of really, really good Batman Joker stories, and the Joker is obviously Batman's most notorious villain or whatever, with things like the Killing Joke out there. So I think Chris Nolan is one of those people that obviously knows this stuff and was able to pull from so many different, again, already good. Because I mean, you can read a Joker story that you've never heard of before, and then think, "Wow, this is better than the Dark Knight's Joker story." But the way, again, being two different mediums or whatever, but I think he was smart enough to be able to actually go through so much content throughout the years. Because at one point, he was just a jester, and he was just, look at him in Batman 66 as Cesar Romero. Or whatever.
A lot of Batman's villains were just a thing or an animal.
Yeah, exactly. But with the modernization of the character, I think you found he lends himself to be terrifying just in general, and the fact that they made him the opposite of Batman lends himself again to have something of a really, really awesome movie. So, John had said that like there'll never be a good Batman, a better Batman movie than this, and I think because Batman just has so much out there that's already really, really good in books and things like that I think there will be eventually, but it's going to take a long time to dethrone this one for a while.
Because the mixture too, and I think we haven't really spoken about it. I think the ace in the hole for this franchise was Nolan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the people and the talented people he brought on, from cinematography to the score of this film, which
Hans
undertoned
Zimmer,
a lot of the tension.
Zimmer, yeah.
And Hans Zimmer, I mean, Nolan was on the rise during this movie. I think this movie was the one that. What did he do before this? The Prestige, I think. Before that, yeah.
David
and so,
Bowie.
like, he kind of.
Oh yeah, I love the Prestige. The ending when what's his name is narrating. It's like, "There's the trick," or something like that.
Oh, because it's a movie making thing. Like it's literally the 3 acts of
the
like,
Magician's
in general,
Code,
like
broken.
illusion. But Nolan was on his rise up, and this movie was the one who I think that put him on the map. But Nolan, like every movie, even the movies that he made before this, I mean, Following.
Pie.
Not Pie. That's Aronofsky.
Oh yeah, my bad.
Memento.
Memento.
Yeah, the
that's one.
backwards movie.
Insomnia.
Mm.
But you have, but anything that he touches, really, he just knows cinema like really well. Like if you
Inception,
talk to him about,
Interstellar.
if you ever read an interview with him, like he always breaks down to what the basic function of what you're watching is. Like it's all just pictures and sound, and he's
Yeah.
like, and that has to affect you in a very emotional way and stuff. And so you can understand that he has a very deep love for movie making in general, and he was just the perfect guy to bring this like character who's already human in the comics. Obviously, granted, he's not like this because like this is probably the most real Batman's ever gotten. Like in the comics, he's like he's
Not real.
Yeah, he's Ben Affleck sized. And like he moves really fast and stuff like that.
He doesn't need to sleep. He's
Yeah,
like,
he doesn't
"Oh."
need to sleep. He doesn't get any bruises or something like that, like
Yeah.
the way this one does. Like this one's body is eroding away because he's like doing this every night.
Well, that's one of the things I think that makes him so tortured in this film is there's a villain out there who will work harder than he will to make the city dangerous.
Right.
And has these other things that he still wants. He still wants to be with Rachel.
Yeah.
And he has to run Wayne Enterprises. There's a lot of boardroom stuff that goes on in this movie, too.
Right.
So it's that torture that he has that...
like the Joker
is
doesn't
almost
have an
like his
alter
weakness.
ego.
Oh, no. And so
Yeah.
he
He
just
can do this
all day,
24/7.
24/7, cohorts and plans.
And
while
you
Bruce
have
Wayne
to
has
balance all these different personal relationships and aspects and things like that.
I
And
think
it's
that's-
crazy. And
yeah.
he ends up losing it all anyways. So.
Right, exactly. I think that's all Nolan though. I think Nolan really just knew how to like get down to the core basics of this character because like that's really what it was. I don't think me being a big huge Batman fan, like I don't think this movie is really so much Batman as it is about the actual core values of Batman. Like the iconography is there. Like you get a couple of shots of him, being really Batman like, like him flying through the city or like gliding through the city in China, in Hong Kong, I think. And then you have some scenes where he's like kind of on top of rubble while it's like, it's got some blue tones lit in the back.
Yeah.
But you don't get like, you don't get like a crazy fight scene like the way you do in like, in Batman versus Superman or anything that's a little bit more.
Or even Batman Begins.
Right. But you don't get like, what I'm saying is like, what I'm trying to say is that the image of Batman from the comics is very different from this movie. But this movie really does, gets to the core of who Batman really is, basically. Like it's just at the end of the day, it is a human in a suit who's kind of a little deranged, but just trying to clean up the city. And I think that Nolan really just wanted to he really nailed that aspect. And that's why this movie is the highest because of it. Like, I guess, or like the highest comic book movie because of this. That's why I think that this movie, which we can talk about here in a sec, ruined like the rest of DC's movie legacy, I guess. Like, or it ruined basically the rest of Batman and DC movies in general because you can't really hit this high note anymore, and everyone's tried to replicate it because from here on out, after this, obviously this movie went big, made $1 billion and everything like that. And hell, it's even coming back to theaters this year
To make another $1 billion, baby.
Yeah,
August.
It's coming back in August
in
for
IMAX?
an IMAX release.
I'll be there.
It really paid off to shoot so much in IMAX, huh? Because then you can
guess so,
re-release
yeah.
something in IMAX.
10 years later, yeah.
But I think there's a lot of, and it's almost like this movie remains small in how contained it is.
Because there's no universe ending,
There
like,
isn't,
stakes and stuff like that. And it's just, and it's really just it's a character's, like,
His psyche, his mind, his
psyche, and, like, in turn, like, the city. Because, like, if he loses, then, like, obviously, like, Gotham
The
City
city does.
descends into chaos.
And he ultimately does what is, we talked about the ending a little bit, what is the best for the city, even though it doesn't necessarily mean the best thing
for him,
for him. And this movie's, it's tragic, it's really fun,
Right.
it's poignant because a lot of the things that it says, but it's also, really believable. It's a complete thing, and I think that's why Nolan's attention or respect of the
character itself,
of the character and of just cinema itself.
Cinema, yeah. Because it is a very much a movie. This is you don't get any much more movie-like than this movie when it comes to Batman. Anyway.
The combination of where the camera is moving back and forth, whether or not it's filmed in IMAX during that motorcycle chase scene,
right? Yeah.
And Hans Zimmer's score, and when the sound crescendos because the motorcycle goes faster, or when the Joker laughs when he shoots the rocket launcher at the truck or something like that.
Right, yeah.
All of that together is just in 5 minutes of this movie, but that's replicated so many times in it, and it's just the I think it's just the completedness of every single second of this movie.
And it's one of those things that just takes into account the history of these characters, because it's almost, the exact same scene where Batman charges them from Burton's movie with the plane, remember?
Exactly.
And it's the same thing, Joker's in the street, and it's like a Western, the showdown, type of thing. So, I don't know. I think it's one of those, that sequence alone should sell you on this movie. That's one of the few complete IMAX sequences too, which is pretty effing great.
It's crazy.
I kind of want to talk about now, but why I don't know, not why, but what the Dark Knight did basically for future comic book movies. We obviously know that Marvel stepped it up after this. Or Marvel was kind of doing their own thing, which is kind of a little, it's kind of different in regards. I think the biggest impact that Dark Knight had in general and in cinema was people you can reimagine a story from the ground up, as long as you keep kind of true to that nature. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Sam Mendes said that he got inspiration for Skyfall from The Dark Knight. Because, before Skyfall, because Skyfall kind of feels like the Dark Knight of Bond
Javier
movies.
Bardem gets caught by himself because, or gets caught purposely to infiltrate from the front and all that.
Well, not even more so than plot points. It's just he was thinking Bond doesn't have to be goofy. It doesn't have to be you can make a really good story while still keeping it Bond.
And that's what The Dark Knight actually feels like. We're watching it earlier, and I told him, I said, it's like James Bond, essentially.
Yeah.
That's what...
Oh, yeah, because Nolan...
Yeah.
Yeah, because Nolan really wasn't a huge comic book fan, per se, before coming on to these movies, but he was a big Bond fan.
Well, this is one of the things with his movies, too, even starting with Memento and... what's the one where they visit each other's dreams?
Following Insomnia? Oh, Inception.
Inception, yeah.
Inception, yeah.
His
Inception.
The plot of his stories is really good too. Never mind the story and the characters and the relationships, but he really does give you a lot of mystery, and he doesn't really let on to what the next thing is in the film. So in this movie, a lot of what you're trying to figure out is who is the smarter person, the villain or the hero.
Right, yeah.
And, they think, oh, he got captured, but he wanted to. Or, there's this decision that Batman has to make, and he makes the right one, but the Joker knew that. So he switched it up on him.
Yeah.
So, and it plays well into who the Joker is to have these played out as riddles or as jokes or as... but really, he's just smarter, in certain areas of the thing. Until Batman decides to make the thing that Joker couldn't plan for, which is the
sonar.
The sonar thing, because there's no...
I could see everything.
It's like cheating almost, right? Either I'm going to outsmart you, or I'm going to build this NSA thing that listens to the whole thing, and then technically I've outsmarted you, but...
But it was illegal, too.
Yeah, it's also very illegal what I did.
Yeah.
It wasn't with the rules that we've made, even though it's all killing people. Who cares?
Yeah, yeah.
But, and so that's what's really cool about this movie is it's these villains... these heroes who are using everyone else as pawns, collateral damage, and Batman does it too. He makes what's his name pretend to be dead for.
Yeah, he does.
Gordon.
Yeah,
Gordon. So it's not just a movie where the good guy keeps getting trapped or keeps fighting until another thing happens.
Yeah,
it's very much a chess match more than it is a objective based movie, because ultimately they just keep getting entangled.
Yeah. Well, even at the end, you won the battle, but you lost the war. The Joker still made you break your own rule and kill a guy.
They both won and they both lost, really.
Yeah, you killed Two-Face, and that's what the Joker kind of wanted or whatever, And that's what sets up eventually the sequel where, he's in a really, really dark place or whatever. But yeah, it's super interesting on how, again, the layers just keep coming back.
But it lines up, I think, with Nolan's movies, because this isn't the only movie where he does that. Inception is very similar. Dream inside of a dream inside of a dream. Is it a dream? So I think this plays really well because it's Joker versus Batman. Two
familiar
people,
story,
familiar story, but you have all of these I wouldn't say plot devices, but ways that you can, I don't want to say confuse the audience, but entice them to always be unsure.
Right, and you subvert what actually was supposed to happen in these type of stories. In other words, you take actual real world tropes and a very extreme detail to almost a very extreme detail to realism on what would actually happen if these characters were actually alive and fighting amongst each other. up until you get to the Two-Face part. But like it's still
Two-Face.
Yeah, because the Two-Face part is still the most. Two-Face to me is the most comic book thing in this movie, just for the appearance. Because realistically, obviously, you can't have a person's face burnt.
He'd be dead
halfway through. Yeah, exactly.
I like when he drinks.
infections.
Doesn't he drink something at
Yeah,
some
he drinks
point?
something. Yeah, and then he just he wipes it off his stuff.
God.
But
no one notices him walking around the whole time.
But again, though, that was one of those little twists and surprises of the movie that you only got when you went to go watch the movie, because Two-Face, the villain, was not promoted at all as Two-Face in the trailers or anything like that. And so you knew that Harvey Dent was there, but you didn't really know that he was going to turn into that Harvey Dent
in another movie.
In another movie,
yeah, the next one after.
And
you also didn't know that he was dating
Rachel Dawes.
Rachel Dawes. And you're like, okay, well that's interesting too.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
And I don't know, that man, even speaking on the tragedy part of the movie where Bruce loses Rachel Dawes, it's just and
then
such
Alfred,
insane.
who knows that she wouldn't have come for him anyways.
Yeah, and it's just it's oh my god, it's so multi-layered, and it's just it's so sad. For that character, the tragic character of Bruce Wayne in this movie has never been more tragic, and they kind of try
His parents died, not tragic.
They try to they try to play up the tragedy a little bit more so in the Dark Knight Rises than if anything, but it kind of doesn't work as well as it does in this movie.
Yeah, there's nothing that can, because in the Dark Knight Rises, we'll talk about it at some point.
Yeah, some point.
We don't talk about it now.
10 years, baby.
The biggest thing for me was, how is Alfred going to address the fact that the whole time, he burned that letter, he got rid of that letter. And that says that she wouldn't have come for him anyways. And how's he going to believe him? He has no proof.
And he
Alfred
doesn't.
Just, hey, by the way, she never loved you.
Well, because even
it's well, fuck.
You're right.
How is he going to prove that?
Because that scene in The Dark Knight Rises, he doesn't believe her. He's kind of just brushes him off.
And
He's
I wouldn't believe him either.
Leave.
It's yeah, cool. Thanks for telling me that the dead girl that I loved, who I thought I was going to be with, never really wanted to be with me. Cool. Thanks.
Such a great flick, this one. So it's
movie,
pretty awesome.
Great movie.
It's like the perfect storm, because you have a guy who can
George
write
Clooney, the other Batman.
The other Batman.
Okay, I was like, the actual perfect storm.
The perfect storm. Oh, that's
Gang
a bummer
Peterson.
movie.
Yeah.
Didn't everyone die except for one person? In that movie?
No, everyone dies in that movie.
Yeah, I guess so.
Mark Wahlberg doesn't die. He doesn't go down with the boat, but he stays up at the surface.
That's the prequel to Aquaman.
And then dies.
He saves him.
and then dies.
Gosh, it ends with a funeral, doesn't it? Oh,
Yeah.
boy. Anyways, yeah, this is the perfect storm, because you have these fantastic actors. You have great IP, which means that there is a built-in audience, and a lot of times that means that you have a bigger sounding board. And then you've got Christopher Nolan pulling the heartstrings and the mind strings and the butt plugs of all the people who are watching the movie. Because if you replace the Batman and the Joker with a gangster and a cop, still would be a fantastic movie.
Right.
But I don't think half the people would have watched it because it wasn't Batman.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, and then I guess the most interesting part about this we can talk about right now is the influences that it had afterwards. It kind of brought fandom. It kind of brought comic book people, according to a really cool piece by if you can find it online, guys, if you're listening, it's a Matt Singer article that he wrote for, I think, Screen Crush, maybe, possibly. I'm not sure with the website, but it's something with Screen in it. But just Google Matt Singer Dark Knight article, and it'll say about how Dark Knight ruined the franchise for future movies, basically. Because he also goes into the rise of toxic fandom, and he kind of pinpoints it around this type of movie, because at this point, comic book fans can now come out and say, hey, what we like, it's not just stupid and cartoony.
It's got to be good.
It's good. And so now this brought basically comic book fans into the mainstream, and now they have a say in everything that they have a say in everything now till we do up until this day. I mean, we had a Marvel podcast that was all about comic book movies and stuff like that, and that fandom is giant. For Marvel, DC, it doesn't matter which brand.
Even in a more specific way, Heath Ledger ruined the role of Joker for any actor afterwards,
as we've seen.
Because everyone, well, not ruined, but it's a very.
It's hard to get right besides that one, because even though me and Drew have this conversation today, because Andrew's if you would allow me to say this, Andrew, Andrew kind of likes the actual the comic book aesthetic, the actual comic book aesthetic of the Joker, which Heath Ledger is not. Heath Ledger is not
I've always said this too openly, that Christopher Nolan's Batman isn't Batman because Batman isn't realistic. Batman will never stop being Batman, like the way he does at the end of The Dark Knight Rises or whatever. Or so again, these are like these watered down characters that, to me, are the essence of what they are. But like the Joker would be out. Like after he got caught by Batman, he'd be out the next day. He'd be out in the next day or two, and Batman would have to hunt him down or whatever. So obviously these characters are bigger than the actors that portray them. But it is one of those things where since the essence of all that is here in this movie,
everyone feels like they nailed the characters
sure,
in this
right,
one. So
yeah.
like, especially for the Joker. I mean, I guess Batman, you may be able to get like an actual good performance out of another actor in the future, possibly, maybe. Affleck is not doing, in my opinion, I know a lot of people feel differently. In my opinion, Affleck's not doing a horrible job at Batman, but like he's, obviously no Chris Bale. The same thing goes for the same thing does not go for like Jared Leto. Jared Leto's a terrible Joker. I think that's what you're getting at.
Joaquin Phoenix.
That's one of the things I think is they're always going to try to find a prestige actor to play the Joker from now on.
Here on out, yeah.
They're going to try to find someone who's going to give it I don't want to say a twist, but a very specific kind of crazy.
Right. They're still trying to match that.
Where
now.
in a way,
It's
the
pretty crazy.
Joker is crazy, but he doesn't have to be too crazy. I mean, even Tim Burton's Joker, what's his name?
Nicholson.
Nicholson.
Yeah.
He was a different breed. He was not, bouncing off the walls wild.
No, he wasn't. He was like a gangster type of Joker.
He was a gangster Joker. He was very methodical in the way he was. So I think there are other ways to tell the Joker. But I think now it's just going to have to be.
I think there's a fascination with actually going into different Jokers though, because of this movie.
Yeah.
Everyone. It's not that everyone wants to match Heath Ledger because everyone actually says that in interviews. Like, no, I don't want to do what Heath did. But if that's the case, then why are you so drawn to this role
and doing something similar?
The Joker is like, yeah, exactly, because the Joker is so. Put it this way, like if that movie if The Dark Knight never would have been made, there probably wouldn't have been any interest in the Joker, going forward, I guess.
I think maybe what everyone is trying to match, and it has something to do with the acting, a lot to do with the writing, is how, I guess, cunning, and we talked about how he one-ups Batman all the time.
Right.
I think that's what they're looking for. And we really haven't seen anything, because even in Suicide Squad, they didn't give him enough screen time to try to
so you can't really
do Batman or to outsmart anyone, really.
So
he's just a violent dude.
It's a glorified cameo,
yeah,
like a character you already know.
I mean, at some point they will, and I think Scorsese's trying to make one, right, or helping make one.
Right, that's the Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie that's supposed to be coming out.
Those are good people.
Soon. Yeah, good people. Good. I mean, good people involved. Like, one would just hope it's a good movie. Like,
they could capture something new or different, because Joker's a great character. It's
Right, exactly. But character. I think you're right. I mean, this did ruin stuff like that for the future. It also ruined the fact that, it ruined the DC universe for a few years. Because after this, Marvel, Warner Brothers, I feel like again, Matt Singer says it in his article. I hope it's Matt Singer. Matt Singer, if you're listening, or Mr. Singer.
I can type it in. Brian Singer?
No, it's not Brian Singer. Oh, shit, I just fucking lost my point.
We're done.
Oh, boy. Well, let's...
No, it'll come back to me, but let's go on for a bit, actually.
It was Screen Crush. It was 5 days ago.
Screen Crush, there you go.
So here's the thing I want to bring up on the other side of the spectrum of here. We'll talk about how successful this was for superhero movies, but this is the exact same fucking year that Iron Man came out.
Iron Man came out a couple of months
before this movie. But this is the movie. So what a seminal time for movies, and specifically superhero movies,
right?
Because Iron Man, which brought about still now one of the most successful franchises, slowly catching up to Star Wars, if not already
surpassing it in popularity.
At least nowadays. And then you have Dark Knight, which is trying to break the mold of the comic book movie, and in really pushing through to what critics consider as really good art.
Right.
The movie was nominated for 8 Oscars, and won 2.
Won 2, yeah. Naturally, it won the posthumous, whatchamacallit, award for Ledger.
Yeah.
For Best Supporting Actor. What was the other one it won for? Something else.
I wish we had someone who could just fact check this.
Hey, you, someone.
I actually had
fact
the. I
check
don't
it.
have the. Hold on.
No,
I
they have this thing
Wikipedia page.
open, but I'm playing Pokemon.
I was
Go.
looking for movies that influence that the Dark Knight influenced, and one of them was Nightmare on Elm Street, according to ComingSoon.net. That remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, which
Nominated for
makes
8.
sense.
And it was the number one. It was the number one for comic book movies since best sound editing. Cool. All right, nice. We got it. So best supporting actor and for best sound editing, which was really really good. This was the very first superhero movie to make over $1 billion.
$1 billion.
Yeah.
$1 billion with a B, baby. Still one of, if you adjust for inflation, still one of the highest grossing movies ever. And the year after this, people were pissed that this movie wasn't nominated for Best Picture.
Best Picture, yeah. And that's why they raised the thing to
The next
10.
thing.
Yeah, to 10.
So really, it kind of pushed the envelope for most genre movies.
Right, exactly, yeah. And everyone wanted
So
to...
Shape of Water, you're welcome.
Everyone wanted to do a movie like The Dark Knight or Batman Begins. Like, The Amazing Spider-Man came out a couple of years later.
Yeah.
And that was supposedly, we know now that it wasn't, but that was supposedly like a grounded take on Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You had other franchises like, Man of Steel that, spawned off of this because Nolan, his popularity just, knew no limits. So, like, Warner Brothers is like, hey, do Superman for us. You have Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which to me was like the dark. It still is. I've said it on Countdown to Infinity that like that is the Dark
Avengers
Knight
podcast now on the Duff and Pad Network.
Marvel Cinematic Universe, this movie paved the way for the MCU to have prestige directors and actors come on board. We're talking people. I mean, I don't even want to go down the list. So many Oscar winners are in the MCU
Anthony
movies.
Hopkins, Kate Blanchett,
Carl
Carl Urban.
There's an argument to say they would not even consider a comic book movie without The Dark Knight.
Right, not at all. I mean,
The
everyone,
Dark
even
Knight.
Coogler said that he was inspired for his take on
Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, his take on Black Panther was inspired off of Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. John Favreau said the same thing. When he made the first Iron Man movie, he was inspired off of the Batman Begins. Yeah, exactly. And so the Winter Soldier to me has always been like the Dark Knight of the MCU because of its serious themes and with its balance of like really great action.
I think the Dark Knight of the MCU is Iron Man 2.
Yes.
I'm
No,
just
it is
kidding.
not.
It's probably Thor the Dark
Godzilla, the 2014 one, took a grounded, realistic approach to these giant monsters.
But that could be overused, which if we talk about Batman v Soups,
oh yeah, exactly.
You could go
in the
too far.
Opposite. Yeah, Batman versus Superman.
No,
obviously
no.
learned the-
No, perfect movie.
learned the wrong.
But not like
lesson from this.
Suicide Squad, Oscar winning.
Winning.
No, I mean when we
Academy
get to
Award
that,
winning.
you get to the later DC stuff now it's course correction. But there was a point where like everyone was obsessed, like Man of Steel and BVS.
Nolan.
They're super obsessed with Nolan's aesthetic. Yeah,
Let's make it
realistic stuff.
Nolan.
And so that still kind of happens today, and like we either have the Dark Knight to thank, or we can blame it on it, like in a bad way. I guess.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Shots fired. Chris Nolan, open invite. And John Nolan, I guess. You too.
Yeah, Jonah Nolan wrote the screenplay.
Yeah,
Even The Dark Knight Rises wasn't as good as this one. Even like later,
Gotham.
like, it's kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
right. Better.
There's that line that kind of foreshadows everything that comes up in the genre. Is like you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
And this movie franchise went on way too long.
Yeah, definitely saw it become the villain. Like I mean,
You mean after 3 movies?
Yes.
well, I was talking about like in general, like the Batman franchise.
Oh, I see.
and
Okay,
stuff.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh damn, you did not like the Nolan
Yeah,
movies.
no, I like the. Dark
Well, actually,
Knight
Andrew
Rises.
likes The Dark Knight Rises more than the Dark
Yeah,
Knight.
it's my
actually, a
favorite
little bit.
out of the 3.
It's more similar to a comic book movie, I would say. The stakes are
A little
much
bit, yeah.
higher, and he's a good villain.
Right. That one just reaches though. That one reaches a little too hard to be realistic while not being realistic, which is like kind of
You
funny.
mean when they blow up that arena?
Gotham.
Well, you have at one point Bane punching at a concrete wall and literally collapsing in front of him.
Well,
and he also keeps everyone from leaving the entire
The
city.
entire time. Yeah, exactly. The
Don't
entire-
go.
And then America wouldn't do anything. They're just like, you guys are just screwed.
Nope.
Like-
Nuh-uh. You got Batman.
But doesn't that seem like such a super villain thing to do?
That is, I mean, yeah, but I was just saying, like, it doesn't work really as well as it did that first time around in The Dark Knight.
Yeah, I guess they made Alfred cry in that movie, and I didn't like that.
That's what your big takeaway was?
Ooh, no. I'll trust you,
They trusted.
And also, Fox, is that his name? CEO of Wayne Enterprises,
Morgan
Yeah.
Fox.
Morgan Fox. He
Yeah,
quits
Lucius
in that movie too.
Lucius Fox.
Things just don't go well in that movie.
Actually, he quits at the end of this one. And I like the way Batman's like, well, you can type in your name. In fact, you're fired. You don't quit.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't claim unemployment.
Oh no. But yeah, what else do you guys want to talk about with this movie? Obviously, Dark Knight, so good, so good.
There's a lot of stuff to talk.
So
I feel
good,
like
so
I'm
great.
Forgetting. Like,
There's a whole
things
lot of
about
stuff
it.
that
Yeah.
happened behind the scenes that make it really well, including how much practical effects
Oh yeah,
into
super
it.
practical. Super
happened
practical.
in this movie.
Shot in IMAX, which at the time wasn't very common.
Very
It was-
expensive, probably.
Yeah, like there's IMAX movies before this. Rob Liefeld was kind of like saying a couple of days ago on Twitter that he'd seen like 30 IMAX movies beforehand, and I don't doubt him. But they don't but none of those were probably like superhero or blockbuster, like summer blockbuster movies.
One of them was The Alamo.
Yeah, it was probably like documentary
The Alamo,
films, which
some Life Aquatic.
You know
movie.
who takes a lot of credit for the plot of this movie?
Goyer.
James Cameron.
No.
Isn't it David S. Goyer?
No. I'll give you a clue. You met him.
Trump. Lloyd Kaufman.
He's been on the pod, I believe.
Sean
maybe
Gunn.
not. Maybe he hasn't been.
Okay.
Neil Adams.
Oh yeah.
He says that a lot of this movie was he was working with Goyer
Yeah.
over it, and a lot of these ideas are from him.
And it's funny because he helped modernize a lot of the DC superheroes, which this movie did technically.
Super modern, yeah.
For Batman.
Brought it into the 2000s.
Yeah, exactly. But other than that, sorry, Neil Adams.
It's really funny because like Neil Adams would be the.
But he
needs
created
credit.
Ra's al
He
Ghul
needs
also.
credit.
He
Yeah.
created
He created Ra's al Ghul. So like and so you have, but it's really funny that you say that though because like Neil Adams, he's working with Goyer because Goyer only wrote the first draft of this script and then it was taken over by Jonah Nolan.
Yeah.
Who Jonah Nolan obviously is like
Very different.
very different and
run
very
circles around.
Yeah, like run circles around Goyer's writing. No
Let me
offense.
write these. Let me write these
Oh,
twists.
you did Ghost Rider 2? That's
Oh,
easy
no.
to beat.
So that's really funny, and I wouldn't, Neil Adams is draws a really good Batman. So like that's guy, pretty
Boom.
great stuff. Did he write it or draw it?
I think he drew it.
I think he drew, but he's also a writer though, right?
Curated it or something.
He does both.
Because
Yeah.
Denny O'Neil is the one who wrote it, I guess, and right, and then
Yeah.
I think
and
he
then
had a
Neil
lot of
Adams-
the ideas. Probably
yeah,
story by.
Neil Adams, yeah.
Story by credit, for sure.
But that's pretty cool, and then it makes sense too, because like this movie does pulls from a lot of Batman.
What does it
lore.
pull off?
It pulls off the Long Halloween.
Oh my god, the hammer pulled you off.
It pulls a lot of the Long Halloween.
Yep,
It pulls some
Killing Joke-esque
some Killing Joke stuff. It pulls some Dark Knight Returns stuff. Some Dark Knight Returns stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty great, and it pulls obviously a lot from the origin of Two-Face.
The Judas coin.
It's pretty rich, and it still works today. Like it's still very entertaining. It hasn't aged.
Yeah.
It hasn't really aged like too badly. Like it's very fun as opposed to like watching like an early X-Men film or something where
As
you can
opposed to
feel.
watching Batman 66.
Well, yeah, I guess if like any other Batman movie kind of doesn't do any after you watch this. So like that makes sense. So yeah, even as much as like everyone likes to kind of jump on the DCEU's bandwagon right now, it's way better than the movies that they've put out now. And I think they're still trying to dissect it and see what made it great. Even though what made it great is literally Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, people really love this movie, but I
they're
still
overthinking
think that Superman, the original Superman, Chris Reeve, is the best superhero movie of all time.
I think you may be right on
Yeah.
that though. I mean that makes because that was the first big one that set
Yeah,
the mold.
I'd say
so.
I would say the majority of people say this one is right. Don't you
Right,
think? They're
yeah.
like, wow, The Dark
Of
Knight.
course.
Have you seen it?
Well,
no.
But until you kind of mentioned,
Yeah,
like
and
I've
then-
always said that, and then every time Andrew mentions Superman the movie with Chris Reeve, I was like, oh, well that makes
Yeah,
sense.
but
'Cause,
and
like,
then they watch that one, and then they'll be like, I don't like this one. This one looks fake. This movie sucks.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Fuck you.
Is that the one where he gets the helicopter that?
I've got me. Who's got you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my
You've
god!
got me.
But that
who's
did
got
set
you?
the precedent for like everything, like this movie. Like that was something that like
That was realistic for the time.
yeah, exactly.
Loved
And so
it.
like you don't make movies without reference. You don't make superhero movies nowadays without referencing that one.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to reference that one, guess what you reference? You
No,
reference The
and
Dark Knight.
when-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Those are the
exactly.
two OGs, and I think they both broke a ton of records at the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Superman, the success of Superman spurned into so many other Superman movies.
Right.
It's fucking insane.
It
really.
started
If you think about it, you're like, oh wow, that's a
then
lot of
after that,
Superman.
after that,
movies.
they made Batman, like the '89, the Burton
Yeah.
one, and so like
Boom. It all goes back to the Superman, baby.
but it's really
you know,
cool.
before Superman, there was a
The Shadow. Or
There was
the
a-
Green Hornet.
my favorite
Doc
Superman
Savage.
movie.
The Lone Ranger.
Yeah, I was thinking of a black and white movie of a train coming towards the camera. That's my favorite Superman hero
More
movie.
powerful
Great
than a
train robbery?
locomotive.
Yeah, the train was the superhero in that film.
My heroes
Thomas
were
the
cops
Train.
and robbers. Just like
My hero was the very first photo ever of a person, which was a photo of a street, and there happened to be a person in the corner of it. You guys know about that?
Nope.
yeah,
The very first picture of a person ever is by accident because there was a person in a picture that they took.
pretty sure that person died annoyed. You're just like they fucking got my photo.
No one ever knew who it was.
Everyone
but that
knows
would be
what I look
insane.
like.
Yeah, he got really sick because no one was ever used to taking
Yeah,
photos.
exactly, yeah.
He was haunted by spirits. Crazy. But yeah, let's go around. Let's have our final thoughts on Dark Knight.
Dork Knight.
Dork Knight. All right.
Dork Knight.
Yeah, we'll start over.
Love
with
it, hate it. Nope.
Date it.
Yeah, date it.
Date it. Kiss it.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. I can quote this movie pretty much like the back of my hand.
No,
I've
you
seen
were
so many-
doing it when we were watching.
Yeah, we were watching
actually.
it, and I couldn't shut up because I know all the lines.
It was like a reflex. It was like you can stop.
Nothing beats this movie the very first time. I remember being blown away at like, you could like you hear a pin drop when the Joker first came in and he does the pencil trick. Everyone was like, "Whoa!" Like I've never seen anything like this before, and especially if you've never read the books or because I mean,
only know of Batman from like a
'cause-
cartoon or something.
Yeah, exactly. He does some fucked up shit in The Killing Joke, also, But if you've never if you've only seen the Jack Nicholson one, the one that's making jokes and being hilarious, then this was a totally big moment for you, and it opened your eyes as to what the character could be. DC actually changed the way he looked in the comics after this because of how much people really, really liked it. Obviously, Heath Ledger was great in the role. I thought he was going to be, again, I wouldn't have picked him in a million lifetimes, but turns out he was the only choice for the role to get it, to elevate the movie to a different level. And he's going up against Jack Nicholson and Cesar Romero, who both did good for their time. But again, he's one of the more memorable ones as well, along with Mark Hamill. For our generation, Chris Nolan, you can't say anything bad about the guy. It's pretty ridiculous what how he's
I have
making.
something bad to say about him. I heard he has an assistant who makes tea for him,
Nice,
and that's and he will drink it. If he doesn't like it, he tosses it
but he pays the
on the
assistant.
ground. I guess so. All right.
Yeah, point taken. But obviously he's making even. He might make a better movie than The Dark Knight even in his lifetime because of how talented that dude is. Still being nominated for Oscars for whether that's effects for Interstellar or score for Hans Zimmer's work
Or
with
editing
him.
for Dunkirk.
Yeah, exactly.
Best
With
Picture.
Dunkirk, and it's pretty ridiculous on how young
talented
he
that
and talented and young. He's super young for the amount of
director,
talent he's
yeah.
got. He could be, he could keep making movies for another 20, 30 years and no one would bat an eye. But I like where his inspiration comes from, where he really, really respects the lure of not only Batman stories, but of film in general, going back to predecessors that did move mountains with the medium of film and taking from them and really respecting what they did and incorporating it into his own art. Obviously, a character like Batman's been around for 75, 80 years, so it's pretty crazy for someone to get you to stop and look back at that character and go, "Whoa!" That was something I've never seen before in 80 years. So I think
And you're 100 years old.
Yeah, exactly. I'm Benjamin Buttoning this bitch, but
He's almost at baby phase, everyone.
But it's obviously a great cast. You never thought you'd see Morgan Freeman, an A-lister, be some supporting cast in a Batman story that, a character named Lucius Fox that you never even knew existed before the movies. So it's really cool on how many Batman fans it made and how many comic book fans, I guess, in general, after this. And I think it's a movie that's going to be special for a really long time, for sure, just because it can stand the test of time.
Yeah, I love this movie. This movie never gets old. I made a promise to not watch this like as often. I broke that promise obviously because I've seen it very often, but I wanted to not watch it so much because I didn't want to get tired of it. But every time I see it, I'm never tired of this movie. I do know it like the back of my hand, but it's like obviously it doesn't never get old. When I first saw it, it was like amazing. It's mind blowing. The fact of like that a superhero story, a movie about like a dude in a cape, dressed like a bat. Like it just running around chasing a clown can be so exciting. It was it's awesome. It obviously solidified what Christopher Nolan can do with the medium of film. Not so much just like the content of comic book movies and stuff, but what he can do as a filmmaker in general. And it made me really excited for the future. And we got one more good Batman movie after this, and we had way more nice Christopher Nolan movies after this as well. Yeah, it's just I love everything about this movie. It is a double-edged sword because, like I said, it did lead to some negative things in the future. Which was about with the with fandom being kind of toxic after this. Kind of showing
a lot of
DC.
people tried to copy this or wanting this.
More. And then obviously the imitations.
Yeah.
To maybe that in a bigger way than the fandom to me, because the fandom obviously doesn't bother me because fandom is
and this
some
movie
fandom can be
really
stupid.
leads so many people to want more Joker,
Right.
which is probably why we see them trying to make more Jokers.
Yeah, and then just more stories like this in general. Every time you see a crazy reimagining of a very realistic reimagining of Scooby Doo or something you can probably thank this movie for doing that. And so for better or worse, that's what we have. That's what that this movie gave us. But as far as the movie itself, it's a great movie. And if I think everyone's seen it by now, but if you haven't, please go check it out.
Yeah, I definitely agree. This movie is a one of those touchstones
In pop culture in general,
and it definitely plays as just a regular crime movie, action crime film, just with characters that everyone knows and have been around for 80 years already.
Right.
But yeah, I think from start to finish, it's a movie that escalates and builds.
Great character development
tension,
too. Yeah.
Character development. The acting is great. Think about the lines. Some of the most tense moments in this movies have no action, no ticking bomb, just have talking. Joker and the gang leaders, or
Right.
Joker in the interrogation room.
And Batman, just talking to each other.
Yeah, even when Joker's captured at the end, and Batman's like, "Who the f are you? What is this?
Yeah.
Who are you? Why are you doing this?" I mean, those are just some of the parts of the film that are incredible. Of course, we have all the big set pieces and things too that are what you see in the trailers and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, I think the chaos that the Joker brings upsets Batman so much that he only beats the Joker when he cheats, and I think that's ultimately was part of the Joker's goal, because he turned Harvey Dent into a bad guy, and he basically turned Batman into somewhat of a villain,
Of a bad guy, yeah,
too,
by the
even,
very end.
even at the end. So it's
he
an
did-
insane movie.
Yeah, he did win, but
He won.
He won, but and then the story was resolved eventually, in The Dark Knight
Yeah.
Rises. But that's a movie for another time that we'll talk about.
But really, really good. I'm glad that it did so much for the genre. Again, it's crazy to think about, and I think we're going to look back and think about this year and the fact that we were alive for it. I mean, if you think about what's that year, the year that Stagecoach, Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz, there are these times where all these great movies come out in one year.
Right.
And you're like, what was it like to be like, oh, next month, oh, you're talking about Gone with the Wind? Yeah, I saw that fucking shit.
Yeah, exactly.
This year is the same year that, of course, we're talking about Iron Man and
Tropic Thunder.
Dark Knight, Tropic Thunder, another Oscar-nominated movie.
Tropic Thunder was this year. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
But I mean, I think Slumdog Millionaire won Best Picture that year. That was a really good year
Jai-ho.
for movies. I mean, we can probably look up a list. There are probably a lot of other good movies.
Oh,
that
it
came
was
out that
a
year.
really good year for stuff
It
in
was,
general.
for
and we
all
were alive for
kinds.
that, and it was pretty awesome. And
Yeah.
this is one of the movies that came about it.
And long-lasting still. From the Marvel and the DC side, it's funny how these two rivals tend to go lockstep together.
But they really kind of complement each other.
Yeah, they
just
really
from that year alone, you can totally tell which
Oh,
one
yeah.
they play off of each other.
Iron
That's
Man
pretty
directed
cool.
by Jon Favreau and Dark Knight directed by
Chris
Chris
Nolan.
Nolan. Both successful films of the time.
Right.
And both still have a lot of influence on superhero movies now. Jon Favreau directly and Chris Nolan a little bit indirectly.
Indirectly,
Jon Favreau,
he
The
kinda
Lion
still,
King,
Chris
Jungle
Nolan's
Book.
name is still technically on DC movies now today. They're in
Producer.
name only. Yeah, producer
He
name
hated
only.
so much, yeah.
And his wife.
Yeah, Emma Thomas too. But yeah, it's
Crazy.
It's pretty great. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's crazy to see how much we have to say 10 years later
About this
about
movie,
the
yeah.
movie. You can't say enough. I'm sure in 10 years from now, it'll be still crazy. Still crazy.
Wild and in charge. Here are the other movies that came out that year, just so I looked. Wally. Slumdog Millionaire. Indiana Jones. What?
The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the worst one. Not hard to beat that one.
Panda. Wow, how weird.
Jack Black.
Benjamin Button. We were just making jokes
Boom.
about it.
Oh, yeah.
Quantum of Solace. Cloverfield came